Good morning, good evening, good afternoon, whatever time you are tuning in. Welcome to Homesteading and Gardening in the Suburbs. I'm Emma from Misfit Gardening, and now is officially PSL season, which means one thing. PSL, for those of you that are not in the know, is pumpkin spice latte. But it means that winter is on the way, and that means that obviously the first frost of fall is just around the corner. Now, cold weather vegetables are going to start to flourish as the weather starts cooling down, but for some of the fall garden vegetables, you're going to want to help them continue to grow by protecting them from the frost. So in this episode, I am going to be sharing some frost protection options for homesteaders on a budget so you can help your garden grow a little bit longer. So let's dig in and talk about some different types of frost protection. Now, the first one that comes to my mind is a cloche. Now, this type of frost protection is perfect for small individual plants. Think things like baby lettuce or spinach plants, maybe small brassica starts, so things like cabbage, kale or broccoli. A cloche is a frost protection structure that is placed over a single plant. Victorian gardens, particularly in Europe, had these beautiful glass bell jars or other small glass frame boxes. Glass featured a lot, and they do look very pretty in the garden, I will be honest. A cloche also protects not only from the weather, but also marauding munchers, so things like slugs, snails, even rabbits. Glass is obviously pretty cumbersome in the garden, right? It's heavy, and if you are clumsy like me, then it is pretty short-lived. Luckily, you can get large clear plastic bottles, and they make a great glass cloche alternative. And it's very easy to get hold of, especially if you're already, buying things of like fizzy soda or pop, or even translucent milk jugs can be used. So what you want to do is you want to carefully cut the bottom off the bottle, and then you place that bottle over the plant, and then you need to work the bottle into the soil a little bit to help anchor it down, and voila, you have a cloche. Now, you want to be taking the lids off your bottles to allow air to move in and out of the bottle, especially on a warm day. If it looks like it's going to be a very warm day, then you want to take that cloche off completely because things get hot in there. Basically, your plastic bottle acts as a mini greenhouse, so things are going to get hot very quickly in there. So on very mild days, you want to remove that cloche completely. But, all you do is, kind of leave them in place, and if it looks like it's going to be a very cold night, you can put the lid back on to help keep your plant a little bit warmer. So there's lots of different options for cloches. Plastic bottles are the most popular, but really anything that you can place over the plant is going to help protect it from the frost. So in a pinch, things like cardboard boxes or even buckets are going to work to cover your precious plants. Even upturned large plant pots are going to help see some of your plants through the night. Now, obviously, you can really make the best of these by planting things that are a lot more frost tolerant and, frost hardy, cold weather hardy crops. So think things like your brassicas. That's going to help your garden, be a lot more successful using some of these techniques, right? You're not going to be able to help, keep growing hot peppers in there, for example, by using a cloche. If you're going to be doing that, then you're going to be needing, a heated greenhouse or something like that where you can keep the temperature as it was during the summer when your plants are thriving. So a top tip for your cloches is to make sure to cover your plants in late afternoon, early evening. You want to trap that warmer air in there, and then you want to be removing those cloches or opening them up, like taking the caps off or the lids off the bottles in the morning when the sun is up to allow the air to move through. Next, let's talk a little bit about covering things up, right? Because if you've got a lot of plants in your fall garden, maybe you've not got enough plastic bottles, plants are too big for a plastic bottle, or you just simply want to avoid using plastic bottles entirely, then you might want to think about row covers for your garden frost protection. And that's what we use. We use a lot of row covers in our garden. And certainly when we move to our new place, which is coming up in a couple of weeks, we are going to be moving to having row covers because the property that we're moving to is on 3 acres. So it's going to be an exciting time coming up, and there's going to be a lot of new things coming out of that, like YouTube. My channel on YouTube is going to be having a lot of stuff going up on there about starting a garden from scratch. So if you are new to growing your own food, then definitely check that out, because we're going to be going through it all step by step together. But row covers are they can be made of plastic, like row polytunnels. They can be a layer of frost fleece or a floating row cover. Thicker plastic or row covers are usually better if you live in colder climates, because they're going to help protect your plants into much colder temperatures. However, the thicker plastic or thicker row covers let in less sunlight, which your plants need to grow, right? Your plants need to have sunlight to be able to photosynthesize, which is what is them growing, right? Now, the stuff that professional growers use is very pricey. If you do any looking online at what the cost of floating row cover is from some of these bigger sort of market gardener suppliers, you'll see that it is kind of expensive. So what's a homesteader on a budget to do? Well, clear plastic sheeting, like the thick stuff from the hardware store that's used for painting, not the really thin, flimsy plastic, right? If it feels like those produce bags at the grocery store, don't even bother, because it's going to break. You want the thicker stuff because it's going to hold up more to, what the weather's going to throw at it. But the thicker stuff works well only really for a season. It is not a long-term option, but it is definitely something that is going to help you through, so you can then kind of work to save up for, the actual greenhouse plastic material, which is a lot better, and it'll hold up a lot better to multiple uses. So plastic helps to warm the soil, and it helps to act like a greenhouse. So again, if you are in a period of time where it is warm and mild, you want to be taking that plastic sheeting off so you can let your plants kind of breathe, get the air, and get some good sunlight, because things are going to get hot in there very quickly, and you'll see that things dry out rather rapidly under the plastic row covers. So you want to make sure that you water your plants in an afternoon before you then go ahead and place the plastic sheeting on top. So the way to think about using these frost protection things is each layer of plastic that you're putting on, or each layer of frost protection, is moving you about one growing zone south. So, for example, if you live in a zone 5 area and you use one layer of frost protection, then you've provided your veggies the growing conditions of a zone 6 area. For me, where I'm going to be moving, it's going to be like a zone 4. If I'm using one layer of plastic, then I'm going to be moving to a zone 5. If I use another layer of frost protection, that puts me at a zone 6. And if I use another layer of frost protection, that would put me at a zone 7, which is where I am growing right now. So you can use multiple layers to kind of help build up that warmer area for different plants that's going to help things grow and really extend your harvest going forward. So frost fleece or floating row cover is usually a spun polyester fabric, right? And one of the easiest things that you can do is use old white or light colored sheets from the thrift store. Those work really well, or if you've got some old ones kicking about at home. You need light colors because they're going to allow the sunlight in so your plants can keep growing. But if it's a very cold night, then use what you have. We've covered tomatoes from late snow using tarps, even a quilt to keep them happy. You just need to be sure to remove these, like thicker covers or dark coloured covers in the morning when the weather is warmed up, because you need to help them, help your plants get to the light. You want to also make sure that your row covers are in a position so they are not directly touching the plants. Things like hoops, poles, or a stake work really well. We had bamboo canes with old tennis balls on them that helped like kind of drape frost fleece over. Obviously, hoops are easy to make. You can use those using kind of irrigation pipe because it's kind of already sort of wanting to bend in, that kind of hoop sort of structure, the half semicircle. So those are kind of easy to use. However, if you're using things like irrigation pipe, it does not hold up well to heavy snow. So you're going to need to knock the snow off them, or maybe look at investing in metal stakes that you can then bend into hoops. They're going to hold up much better to snow. That was something that we learned the hard way when we had this really awesome hoop house that we built that was helping us overwinter some kale that I was then going to save seed from, because I'm working on a kale growing project as well as leeks and a myriad of other seed saving things. But what we found was we had an unusually heavy snowfall, and it was a very wet snow, and it just kind of caved everything in. And what happens is when the plastic or anything, like if you've got the frost fleece or whatever, if it is touching your plants get wet and then they freeze. So you end up losing the plant anyway. So you want to try and keep your row covers so that they are not touching those plants. You also want to use things like clothespins or clothes pegs to, or even clamps to secure the cover to the supports. Help keep things, batten down the hatches, so to speak, and make sure they're not going to blow away. And you also want to make sure that you secure the row covers at ground level. You could use stone, brick, or even pin them with pins into the ground. Or if you are looking to have a larger structure, you might want to consider sort of putting some wood together, like making a box frame and then putting the hoops in those, and then you can secure the plastic or the row cover directly to the wood, which is going to help keep it a lot more secure, and that's going to help stop the wind, the rain, and the snow and everything else getting into your veggies. Now, there's lots of different ways that you can protect your garden from frost. There's a lot of other techniques that you can use, like watering if you know that you've got a cold day coming. And I know it sounds a little counterintuitive to water, but if your plants are not thirsty, they're going to be able to cope a lot better with the change in temperature. But also, water actually acts to kind of reduce fluctuations of temperature. So those of you that are living in coastal regions often experience a lot less temperature fluctuation than those of us out in the Midwest, that do not have the benefit of being near a large body of water to help mediate the temperature fluctuations. But giving your plants a water before them placing these structures over them to help protect them from frost is also going to help them kind of see the night through. Another good technique, and granted, this one might be a little bit late as I'm telling you this, but really making good use of the aspect of your garden. So if you've got plants that you're planning on, growing through winter or using in your fall garden, make sure that you have them growing in a south facing if you're in the northern hemisphere, or a north facing if you're in the southern hemisphere. Like, really have them in the best place possible for that maximum amount of sunlight, as the sunlight is going to be a lot weaker throughout those winter months. I know I already kind of mentioned this, but make sure that you're growing things that are frost tolerant and cold hardy, those plants that are going to thrive in those colder temperatures, that's going to also help your garden be successful. Like I said, you don't want to be trying to overwinter, peppers and stuff if you're living in Alaska. You really want to be focusing on those crops that are going to grow well in those colder temperatures. And lastly, the other thing to do is to really, experiment in your garden. Like, what is working best for you? What is working best for your garden? And then hone in on that. Make sure that, you try some of these different techniques to find out what is going to be best for you. I hope you found this episode helpful. Please let me know what your favorite way to protect your garden from frost is over in the Facebook group. And until next time, I hope your garden grows beautifully, and I will see you all next week.